Well, hi everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. My name is Brian May. I'm with the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services. I want to thank you for joining us live on Facebook today. We are live at the California State Fair for First Responders Day. Coming up, we're headed behind the scenes at the CHP Academy to show you what it takes to make the cut. We've also got an all-access pass to the CAL FIRE Training Academy to see the training these elite firefighters go through. We'll climb aboard and go wheels up with the California National Guard to see incredible video of a rescue that saved a man's life. And speaking of saving lives, we get an inside look at a simulated bioterrorism attack. We've got a rare look inside the California Department of Public Health's Emergency Preparedness Office. And we'll tag along with a Cal OES Emergency Services Coordinator as he builds relationships up and down the coast. It's all coming up live, First Responders Day at the California State Fair. Much for joining us again. We are live First Responders Day at the California State Fair. In addition to the stories that you just saw, we're going to have some live guests that we'll be talking to throughout the show today. And speaking of live guests, just roaming the fairgrounds today, and I happened to run into two of my former co-workers, Dale Shornack, Christina Mendonza. For those of you who don't know, we worked together for the last part of 17 to 20 years together at a local TV station. Guys, thanks so much for joining me today.
Absolutely. You know, you called, you said, hey, we're getting the band back together. And I thought, why not? Plus, we all have a heart for first responders.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
It was a really good band. And in our long career in TV news here, we've all been involved with these agencies. Office of Emergency Services and California Highway Patrol and California Department of Public Health and California National Guard and CAL FIRE. So on First Responders Day, very appropriate, I think, that we're here to not just honor them, but tell people exactly what they do and how important they are to our community.
And we're going to get more into your role with the California Department of Public Health, your role with California Highway Patrol, but right now it is fire season. It is a busy fire season. They say the busiest fire season is the year after the drought ends, and that's where we are right now. So we want to start the show by talking about CAL FIRE.
Absolutely. We have so much fuel that's burning, and we have already almost 4,000 fires in the state of California. And this is what the thousands of men and women of CAL FIRE have been training for all year. We're going to go with Jonathan Goodell now to the Fire Academy in Ione for a close-up look.
Yeah, absolutely. Just take one look at the statewide fire map. No region has been spared, and the summer doesn't look much better. Here at the CAL FIRE Academy, these firefighters are learning the necessary skills to fight fires and save lives.
Situated on a sprawling campus in Ione, a small northern California town about 40 miles from Sacramento, the CAL FIRE Academy is a state-of-the-art facility.
So we made our inspection cut, correct?
Students take 7-week courses in either the company officer or firefighter academies, or often both. It's here where the groundwork is laid. Training is being done year-round. When one class graduates, the next one arrives just 2 days later. They work together, train and study together. The bond for these firefighters is forever.
The 7-week program develops a very strong bond with the students. They spend 7 weeks together fighting through exams, studying, long nights of studying with long days in the heat doing drills. So their bond becomes very strong.
Students arrive on campus with basic knowledge. Learning advanced firefighting skills begins here at the academy and is incorporated here on the front lines.
It's the framework of what we do and who we are in CAL FIRE.
Students learn in the classroom and in the field. Hands-on scenarios include commercial-based and residential structure fires for attack and searches, mobile attacking fires around power lines with the intent of preventing injury and fire expansion, as well as wildland-urban interface, focusing on defensible space while assessing and securing the structure.
Once they leave here, they'll be ready to start their 30-year career. You're always learning, and there's always more training to be had, and training never stops.
90% of these students are seasonal firefighters. In extreme cases, though, academy instructors may accelerate the program, such as what happened in 2013.
We've gone into drawdown solo, where we've actually had to use the students and the instructors here to staff engines to respond to incident.
CAL FIRE on average responds to nearly 2,500 fires from January through early July. This year, CAL FIRE had responded to more than 2,900 fires in that same span. Nearly 700 more fires have already burned compared to last year, and it doesn't appear to be slowing down anytime soon.
We are back now live at the California State Fair. It is First Responders Day, and I'm joined by Battalion Chief Mike Moeller with CAL FIRE. Mike, thank you so much for joining us. I know it's a busy time for you guys, and I had a chance to go through that academy when Jonathan went through there. It's impressive from start to finish, the training that you give your guys as they go through there.
It really is. We start with what we call our firefighter module, which again is strenuous. The recruits are in there. It's 5 days a week, up before the sun rises, down 10 o'clock at night, and the training there, not only live fire but the academic training, and then they move into what we call our company officer academy, another module. What again is now you're moving into an officer position,
right?
So a lot of academic, and again, operating engines,
right,
throwing ladders, cutting holes, and pulling hose. It's very difficult.
I was there on a day when it was about like today. It was hot. It was around 100, and I'm wearing what I am today. I could not believe what those guys were in, and they could get through that heat like that. The physical shape they're in is incredible.
It really are, and physical training is a big part of our academy. But when you're down on what we call the drill ground, the fire ground, that asphalt, you put on a pair of turnouts and a breathing apparatus and go into on an August day into a burn tower.
Right.
It's important. That's what we always talk about, hydration and watching our people. But yeah, you have to learn to acclimate to that type of environment.
Somebody may be watching us and says to themselves, I want to join CAL FIRE. Tell me what to do.
Well, you go to www.fire.ca.gov, and that is CAL FIRE's website, and you can go on there and just go to our open careers or go to Cal HR and look for open careers for CAL FIRE.
Thank you guys for all you do during fire season for year round. Stay safe out there. I know it's going to be a busy fire season.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Dale and Christina, I'll throw it back to you.
Hey, Brian, if we can, real quick, just a question for Mike. I've heard that wildfires this season in particular are harder to predict, which of course makes them more dangerous, harder to predict because of that new growth this year under the last 4 years of dried fuel from the drought. Is that what they're finding out there?
We're hearing that Dale's asking, is it harder to predict what the fire season is going to be like because we had so much rain and now there's a lot of fuel on the ground?
There really is, and so what we use statewide is predictive services. So we never predict fire season, we monitor weather conditions.
Right.
But with 5 years of drought, now you have the drought-stricken fuels. Now in some areas across the state, record rainfall, so you add that to the grass and the dead fuels from the drought, and then the tree mortality, over 100 million trees dead statewide. And we've seen it, just here we are end of July, and the fire activity is unprecedented across the state.
I told you stay safe out there. We need everyone else to do the same. Just be careful with what you do out there, right?
Absolutely.
All right,
Absolutely.
Thanks, Dale.
Yeah, people love to camp and they love to be out there, but you do have to be careful with what you're doing with your campfires while you're out there. 700 more fires. I remember we were celebrating when we were getting all of this rain this year, but it does present the problem of additional fuel.
Yes,
and some of those are sparked by lightning, and that we can't avoid, but
Right.
when you're out there camping, I mean, conditions are, still very dangerous out there. Yeah, we had a wet spring and winter, but there's a lot of fuel out there, so just be careful with that too. Keep that in mind with campfires. When it comes to first responders, no agency actually has a longer history of being first responder in California than the California National Guard. The Cal Guard is there when they are needed. Here's Monica Vargas.
When disaster strikes in California, the California National Guard is always ready. Whether it's fires, floods, or earthquakes, the Cal Guard is capable of handling almost any emergency situation. A massive force of skill, specialized training, state-of-the-art equipment, and the ability to mobilize quickly, the Cal Guard is part of California's emergency response backbone.
We train year-round to be ready as well for emergency response. So we're not only training for combat, as our role is Army and Air Force Guardsmen, but we're also training on how we're going to respond to floods, search and rescue, wildfires.
The Golden State is no stranger to disaster. It was an epic start to 2017 with record amounts of rain and snow up and down the state. While the rainfall was welcomed, more rain meant more danger. This past February, an 81-year-old Plumas County resident found himself in a dangerous situation when he was swept into fast-moving waters. Fortunately, the California National Guard was there and saved the endangered man's life. Chief Warrant Officer Sylvester Wilson is part of the team that trains for these type of rescue operations all throughout the year.
It's a great feeling to save a life. We are here for the people of California.
The Cal Guard remained busy and engaged throughout the winter on missions supporting the effects of winter rains. And now here we are in the middle of fire season, and it's been a busy one with nearly 3,000 fires thus far, and we are barely in July. Monstrous fires threatening life and property have already called upon the CalGuard's air tankers and helicopters to help battle the flames. We don't know what the next disaster will be or when it will strike, but we do know that the California National Guard is always ready and always there.
Will Martin with the California National Guard. Captain, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
First of all, appreciate everything that you guys do. Talk about how the CalGuard plays a role in, we talk so much about mutual aid up and down the state. You guys are so involved in that.
Yeah, mutual aid is huge for us. So interagency cooperation is really the bedrock of emergency response in California. So the CalGuard works along with Cal OES, Cal Fire, CHP, all the local and various other community emergency response systems. And we provide support based on the skill sets that we often use actually on the battlefield. That translates, believe it or not, to the civilian side. So we have aviation, ground, and as well as security personnel who are able to support all the emergency incidents that occur in California.
Just based on the story that we saw, you guys are rescuing an 81-year-old man. You have to train for everything because you never know what you're going to encounter, don't you?
That's so true. We have to train year-round along with those other agencies. So we partner with Cal OES and CHP and Cal Fire so that when the emergency incidents actually occur, it's second nature, that cooperation to respond on behalf of Californians.
Someone has piqued their interest today watching this story. How can they get, if they're interested in the California National Guard, what do they do?
Sure, if they want to go to 1-800-GO-GUARD is actually a website that'll point them toward their local recruiter, and we're always looking for obviously capable young men and women who are willing to not only fight wars on behalf of the nation, but more importantly, support the folks here at home in California.
Captain Martin, thank you for all you guys do. Stay safe out there. I appreciate it very much. And welcome to First Responders Day.
Thank you.
Dell and Christina, back to you.
Brian, will you ask Captain Martin, after 9/11, there were a lot of difficulties with different agencies being able to communicate with each other. They all had different communication systems. How have they have worked, the California National Guard, with other agencies to improve those communication systems?
So Christina's asking, after 9/11, there were some issues with agencies communicating with one another, working. So since 9/11, what's been done to help that communication with you guys and other agencies?
And you hit on that earlier, the training is the big thing. So year-round, we're training alongside the other agencies so that communication is second nature and seamless. For example, Cal Fire holds a huge wildfire training every year in Ione and also in Los Alamitos in Southern California, and we're a big part of that, so that when the wildfires actually start to really kick in, it's second nature for us to communicate with those other agencies. All they need to do is reach out to us and we're quick to respond.
Practice it in peacetime so it works when you need it.
That's it. We in the military, we say train as you fight, and that's the same concept on the civilian side. We train to respond.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Captain Martin.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Dale, Christina?
All right, Brian, thanks. Boy, I've seen that training firsthand, too, since I've been now a month at the California Department of Public Health, because as reporters, we've been to so many news conferences when there's been a major disaster or a threat to public health. You've got all of these different agencies that are working together, and that doesn't just happen. I mean, they have to communicate well together, know everybody else's roles, and they also have to have personal relationships, and that happens through constant training, and now I'm a part of that training. It's really kind of amazing to see that, no, it just doesn't happen. There's a lot of work that goes into it behind the scenes every week. Well, when it comes to first response, you have a special connection, a lifelong connection to the California Highway Patrol.
Right, it's not a professional connection, but it is definitely a personal connection. When it comes to first responders, I do have a special affection for the California Highway Patrol. My father spent his entire adult life as a member of the California State Police, which was then merged with the California Highway Patrol about 1994. And when you have a family member that is a first responder or a member of the California Highway Patrol, it is really the whole family that gets involved in that officer's mission. We're going to take you more now to the CHP Academy and show you some of the rigorous training that happens. Here is Rob Mayberry.
I'm here at the CHP Academy in West Sacramento, where a new class of cadets is on their way to becoming officers. But before they can accept their new roles, they must first endure intense coursework, rigorous physical training, and let's not forget, driver's education.
But this isn't your high school driver's ed course. This is the CHP's Emergency Vehicle Operations course.
The importance of the training is simple. No matter how far you go up in rank, the first thing you do is drive.
This high-intensity maneuver teaches these cadets how to keep control of their vehicle on wet road conditions. Mastering this is a must to becoming a CHP officer.
When we first get in there, it's very stressful, and you learn how to manage that stress through breathing, through just focusing, doing the techniques correctly.
Not only do these cadets learn how to maintain command of their vehicle, they practice identifying the sounds of gunfire while driving and other highly skilled performance techniques.
EVOC is certainly challenging.
There's more to the training than just emergency vehicle operations. Cadets also must complete weapons and firearms training, arrest techniques, and undergo grueling physical fitness challenges.
It's 28 weeks of very physical, mentally taxing, and demanding training. And so we look for people that have the ability to move through that at all phases of training. We also have an air operations program, motorcycle enforcement, we have bicycle enforcement, equestrian enforcement. So canines, all these different things you have an opportunity to be able to go into.
CHP, hoorah! As you can see, becoming a CHP officer is not an easy task. Not only do these fine men and women keep our highways safe, but they are at times the first responders when disaster strikes.
The California Highway Patrol has a very specific function, but at the same time, we rely on the resources that are provided to us by our allied agency partners. The fire agencies that we work with and the Office of Emergency Services, all of those agencies play a part in our first responder role in providing this safety and security to the public.
So as you can see, these cadets have some challenges ahead of them, and we want to wish these first responders all the best on their new endeavors as they serve and protect the citizens of California.
Back now live, California State Fair, and it is, as we mentioned, First Responders Day. And really, when you think of first responders, the California Highway Patrol, one of the first agencies you think of. We are joined by Captain Josh Ellers with the CHP. Thank you so much for joining us, Captain.
Thanks, Brian.
I appreciate it. Talk about your role with what you do. You guys are all up and down the state of California doing everything imaginable when it comes to first responders and safety.
Well, thanks for the opportunity to be here and celebrate first responders at the fair. We appreciate Cal OES's partnership. You're right, as the state police, we are up and down the state serving communities and traffic enforcement, general law enforcement, and certainly responding with our allied agency partners to natural disasters, wildfires. And our men and women, 11,000 strong, stand ready to do that at a moment's notice. A very dangerous profession, but a really rewarding one.
You talk about what you guys are doing front line. I know you promote safety all the time. That's one of the messages that you guys talk about, and I want to give you that opportunity to talk about that. A lot of things that we can do or not do just to keep your job and our roads safer.
Absolutely. Well, we're always preaching to treat each other nicely out on the roadways in our communities. And we want to really encourage people. Summer's here, Labor Day is right around the corner. Designate a sober driver, don't drive impaired, and really limit and exclude distraction in your vehicles. Texting and driving has become a huge issue nationwide, and we want our roadways to be safe. We want our families to be safe. So concentrate on driving going down the roadway, and I think we'll all be that much better off.
You mentioned 11,000 strong for CHP?
That's right. We have over 11,000 employees, 7,500 or so are uniformed police officers, and we have 4,000 over 4,000 support staff. Great people that serve in different capacities, and we're recruiting.
That's what I was going to say. I bet you're looking for more, though.
That's the great news. We are hiring. So people, if they're interested in a great vocation, an opportunity to serve their communities, a long-term career, they can go to chpcareers.com or come visit us at the fair. We're in Building C. We also have recruiters here. We'd love to have them as part of our organization, something that's representative of the state that we serve every day.
Welcome to First Responders Day. Thank you for all you do, and stay safe out there.
Absolutely. We appreciate your support. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And Christina, I know of all the first responding agencies, you talked about this when we began the story. This one really is close to your heart.
Absolutely. It's a personal thing for me since my father was CHP. And I would just like to add to what he had to say, or if he'd like to add more to it, is that there's so many different kinds of jobs available within the CHP. Most people think of it as just, someone maybe pulling them over or showing up at the scene of an accident, but there are investigation teams, there are dignitary protection teams. There's a lot going on within that agency.
Christina's asking about so many different types of jobs within CHP that people can look at. The careers, the different types of careers you can have.
Absolutely. Well, there's the obvious one, the uniform I'm wearing, and we actively are recruiting at our academy for the officer positions. But in addition to that, we have just a myriad of folks that are incredibly talented. In the legal profession, we have analysts, strategic planners, we have people in the IT industry within our department, people that work regularly in accounting and contracting. It's a huge organization, and it takes really all of those non-uniform civilian employees to help make the Highway Patrol operate every day. this is the part you see,
Right.
but there's a whole army of folks that
Right.
make us successful every day.
Thank you very much again.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it. Dale, Christina, back to you.
That training firsthand. We got out to the test track at the Academy in West Sacramento, so we know what it's like to deliberately
Thank
try
you.
to put a
That's
squad
perfect.
car
Thank
into a
you very
spin
much.
on wet
Thank you,
pavement and then get out of that spin. And you were really good at that. And also, another thing we had to do is put it in reverse, hit the gas, and drive backwards as fast as you can and stay on a little narrow strip of road. I mean, when I'm going like
That was
this,
fun.
trying to,
That was a lot of fun.
I found that to be dangerous, but we survived it. All right, fun for you.
Yeah, that was one of the more fun stories. Yes.
Yeah. Well, and I've had so many officers, CHP officers, come up over the years as a reporter and say that they remember your dad, Frank, and what a great guy he was. He worked on dignitary security with state police, and then they were folded over into CHP. But they have so many great memories of Frank and just such respect for the officer that he
It's
was.
so great to hear, and I love talking to some of the officers who knew my dad. He worked on dignitary protection for Reagan, for Brown the first time Brown was in office, and also Duke Majan, and then during the first part of the Wilson administration as well. So he had a long history at the state capitol, knew a lot of people, so it's always good to hear from officers that knew him. And you have a new role, a very exciting role. I've been loving your work. I've been watching it.
Thank you. Some of it you can see on social media on the California Department of Public Health website. I've been with them for about a month now. I'm in the Office of Public Affairs that really involves a lot of different things, and part of that is risk communications because public health is a first responder when it comes to the big emergencies that you see, the floods, the earthquakes, that sort of thing. But California Department of Public Health is also an agency that every day is on the front lines of threats to public health, and more recently that's been trying to contain Zika virus, valley fever, the botulism outbreak earlier this year in Sacramento County. Their laboratory in Richmond was the one to identify that virus, what was causing the problem, the botulism, and stop that before it spread even farther. But this is also an agency that literally always is in training for threats to public health during major disasters.
Oroville Dam threatened to burst, unleashing a thundering wall of water that could have devastated entire communities. Our state was facing one of its greatest public health emergencies.
This is our state-of-the-art Medical and Health Coordination Center here at the California Department of Public Health. It's quiet now, but during a natural disaster or other emergency, this is where we go to work protecting the lives of Californians. We've also developed a new geographical information system. The system can display nearest hospitals and emergency rooms, buildings and fairgrounds that can be used for emergency evacuation centers, live traffic, weather warnings, earthquake activity, airfields, and river and stream levels.
We can see all of the different floods that were happening, and we can potentially see new floods coming because the streams are being monitored in real time. We can see that graphically and know which communities needed to be evacuated before the flood actually hit them.
The California Department of Public Health Emergency Preparedness Office trains to deal with threats to our health from earthquakes to bioterrorism. Training involves realistic simulations with hundreds of people from dozens of different agencies working together to speed response and recovery. In this case, a simulated terrorist attack exposing thousands of people to anthrax and a race against time to deliver life-saving vaccine.
It's learning how to respond, who to talk to, and to do it in a place where we don't actually have lives on the line, and to be ready when we do.
At the California Department of Public Health lab in Richmond, scientists are first responders, working quickly to identify threats like toxic substances in food, air, and water.
This year we were involved in one of the biggest foodborne botulism outbreaks in California history, associated with nacho cheese. We provided the clinical testing to identify cases that were associated with the outbreak, and we were also able to identify the source of the infection.
These scientists are working right now to stop another threat from spreading, Zika virus.
We have recently been designated by the CDC to be one of 4 national centers for Zika virus testing. I think this is important for Californians, especially because the mosquitoes which transmit Zika virus are now found in southern and central California.
This month, the California Department of Public Health celebrated 10 years working to protect the health and well-being of the people of California.
You responded to H1N1, Ebola, Zika, a measles outbreak, e-cigarettes, the Oroville Dam spillway emergency.
And feel good about this. You've got a lot of people at the California Department of Public Health working hard for you.
Boy, and you really do, and they do such great work, and I had no idea how many different areas they were involved in the public health of California until I joined this organization. As I said, they're involved in some of the major responses, the public health threats involved with earthquakes and floods and wildfires, but also a lot of threats that you can only see under a microscope.
Right.
And that is daily stuff. I mean, that's Zika virus, and more recently, it's Valley fever and hantavirus and the botulism outbreak and the hepatitis C outbreak in San Diego. It's just amazing what they're doing, the great work. I tell you, I feel really honored to be a part of this organization and to help in just a small way with some of the work that they do, protecting the health and the well-being of the citizens of California.
Are they treating you well? You're a couple of months in now?
They are treating me great. I'm actually just about, this is my 5th week. There is a huge learning curve to this job. A lot of processes and a lot of different programs to get to know, but people are so helpful and supportive that, yes, they're just the best people to work with. They care passionately about what they do. And I don't mean to sound corny, but for a lot of people, I mean, it's a mission. It's very important work, protecting the health of California, stopping an outbreak before it becomes a pandemic and really threatens lives. Right. And that's what they do. They do a lot of work that we never even know about or see because they stopped it from becoming a problem.
Well, and like you, I'm going through a huge learning curve myself. I've been with the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services now for about 4 months, and already in the 4 months that I've been with them, I've been whitewater rafting with Sac Metro Fire. I've been on a tree mortality flight with the U.S. Forest Service. I was in Madera up in the fire Mariposa earlier this week. And it's been educational for me to learn what all OES does. We have so many people who work for Cal OES. So we sent our own Sean Boyd out. He followed one of our guys around one day, kind of a day in the life of Cal OES.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks, guys. We're here on Yerba Buena Island, right across the bay from San Francisco. And it's where we begin our 2-day ride along with one of our regional deputy administrators, David Cruz.
Now we just
he
kind of
helps
chatted
run
out.
the coastal region. Now, one thing you'll learn here today is that his job is best done face-to-face.
We have an incredible amount of windshield time. We're always on the road. We are the road warriors, so to speak.
And there's no place David Cruz would rather be.
We are that constant, building a relationship on behalf of the Governor's Office of Emergency Services.
David's job as Deputy Administrator for the Cal OES Coastal Region puts him behind the wheel of his SUV nearly every day, traveling from Del Norte County in the north part of the state all the way to the bottom of Monterey County.
We're not exchanging business cards on the battlefield. They know we know who our counterparts are, we know who our friends are, and we work with them really, really closely on and off the battlefield.
The battlefield would be the scene of an emergency or major disaster. He meets with his local, state, and federal counterparts long before any disaster hits. He does it the old-fashioned way, face-to-face, to see how any response and recovery efforts are going, what they may need, and if any issues lay on the horizon. First stop today, Yerba Buena Island.
This is United States Coast Guard Vessel Traffic Service, San Francisco.
Cal OES is embedded here with the Coast Guard. Today, David checks on the progress of the mission to raise a barge that sank in the San Francisco Bay 2 months ago and came to rest atop the BART commuter train tunnel. Tonight, the raising begins.
The crane cab section was finally raised last night.
Next stop, a coffee shop. Meetings take place wherever and whenever possible. Today, he meets with Cal OES NGO coordinator Abby Browning. Barely enough time to finish a venti iced tea, and it's off to San Francisco PD. Inside the operations center, David checks in with the duty officer.
Anything big transpiring now? It's still pretty quiet.
It's knock on wood.
A much different situation from the last week or so when protests and massive fires broke out. Day 2 on our road to recovery with David Cruz takes us to Big Sur. The rebuilding of the Pfeiffer Canyon Bridge is making great progress. Winter storms damaged the bridge beyond repair. Its closure, along with Highway 1 here, has isolated the community of Big Sur, creating significant hardships for residents. So Cal OES coordinated with Monterey County to help build a walking path around bridge construction. And that's where David conducts his next meeting.
Hi, David. Nice to meet you.
David gets an update on how helpful this trail has been, as well as this. A shuttle bus to take residents and visitors the 2.5 miles from the road closure at the bridge to the resorts and restaurants on the other side of Big Sur. Both the shuttle and trails have helped, but bridge completion will be the key to the survival of these businesses.
It's a ghost town.
They have no access from the public, so they have no revenue.
So David now meets with the owner of Nepenthe Restaurant, who's also president of the Big Sur Chamber of Commerce.
Most of the businesses have been applying for the economic injury side.
After nearly 2 hours of discussions with Kurt Gafill, David's day is complete. He's gained invaluable insight, and equally important, he's gotten candid, no-holds-barred feedback that will help Cal OES help them.
This is information that I can provide back, to our leaders, and something will be positive out of that.
So whatever happens at headquarters there in Sacramento or at any of the incident or unified commands, it all starts with the regional administrators and the emergency services coordinators, the ESCs, under their management. Guys, back to you at the fair.
And we are back now live at First Responders Day at the California State Fair. And if you come out today, we're located where we're doing this broadcast is just at the entrance of Camp Smoky, and you'll see one of our Cal OES fire trucks. You can recognize them by the color. They're kind of a yellowish, and on the side it will say where we assign them to. This one actually is from Morro Bay. So in addition to the red Cal fire trucks, you'll see one of our Cal OES fire trucks. And again, ours are kind of yellow. They'll usually be part of a strike team, which will go up and down the state of California and fight fires really anywhere up and down the entire state of California. We have about 160 of these trucks that we put strategically throughout California, and that's what we talk about, mutual aid. They can be deployed at any point in time, anywhere, and seeing mutual aid work from the inside now out with Cal OES is fascinating for me to watch every day.
Absolutely, especially all of us covered first responders for so many years through our jobs as journalists, and I learned a lot of new things today.
You too, I'm sure.
It gives you a real appreciation for what these agencies do behind the scenes, because as reporters, we saw them in action. I mean, CHP and Cal OES and California Department of Public Health and National Guard, but there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes that people never realize. And it's very intensive, but when there is a major disaster and suddenly all these agencies have to come together and quickly and know what to do, they just know how to do it because they've trained for it. And that's something that's so important to, the health and the well-being and the safety of the people who live in this state. And
it's a beautiful choreography.
So this is First Responders Day, and Brian is now a first responder, so when we say hug a first responder, I guess you can hug Brian.
Absolutely. Thank you, first responder.
We've done it, it's okay.
Well, speaking of thank you, I cannot tell you guys how much we appreciate you joining us today and helping us get through the show. I know first responders, as we talked about, close to both of your hearts now, so thank you very much. We'll get an update from you soon, correct?
Yes.
Visit our online news.
When I have something to announce, I will announce it there.
Hey, before we let you go, I do want to remind you, we are right at 1 month away from California's. It's Day of Preparedness Day. It's in Old Sacramento, and that will be Saturday, August 26th. It's from 10 a.m.
Visit our online news.
It is free. We'll have all kinds of giveaways for the family, demonstrations throughout the day. So 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Saturday, August 26th, California's Day of Preparedness at Old Sacramento. For all of us at Cal OES, for Dale Shornack, Christina Mendonza, thank you so much for joining us. Come out to the fair, and if you do, again, entrance of Camp Smoky, you can see these beautiful fire trucks. They won't let me get in it again because they'll honk the horn by accident. I really
he got to run the siren earlier.
I did,
by
and
accident.
It didn't go well. But thank you so much.
Visit our online news. Visit our online newsroom at oesnews.com to learn more about this program and get the latest news and information from our team. Don't miss our next video on your Facebook timeline. Like our page and you'll get the latest posts as they happen. If you're an Instagram user, you can see the latest snapshots by following our Cal OES Instagram account. And Twitter users can get instant access to our tweets from across the state by following Cal OES.